Welcome back to the channel where I give you my recommendations for new streaming content up front, and then hopefully you'll stay tuned and I'm going to actually give you the reasons why I gave it those ratings. Today we're going to go and actually review Missing You on Netflix. Now, this is a limited series crime drama mystery series for main target audience members. These are people that are into crime drama mysteries, British dramas, female driven protagonist stories. I'm going to go ahead and actually suggest that you watch at least one episode of the series. For casuals, that you're not into any of those types of things on there, but you're wondering if you should go and actually give it a time of day. For casuals, I'm also going to recommend that you watch one episode for this series. Now stay tuned and let me go and actually break down for you how I got to those recommendations.
She said she was going on a trip with her boyfriend. This is the guy she went away with.
Missing You on Netflix premiered in January of 2025. It contains 5 episodes that average roughly about 45 minutes apiece, and it stars Rosalind Alazar as Kat Donovan, Ashley Walters as Josh Buchanan, Mary Malone as Aqua Vanech, and Richard Armitage as Chief Inspector Ellis Stagger. IMDb has a synopsis in this way. 11 years ago, Detective Kat Donovan's fiance Josh, the love of her life, disappeared and she's never heard from him since. Now, swiping profiles on a dating app, she suddenly sees his face and her world explodes all over again. Josh's reappearance will force her to dive back into the mystery surrounding her father's murder and uncover long buried secrets from her past. This is based on Harlan Coben's novel by the same name. It's the 9th book of his that's been adapted to a live action movie or TV series. Now, for me, I've only seen Shelter, which is one of his more fantastical mysteries, and I actually liked it. It's good for young adults, so I liked it. I didn't love it, but it was pretty decent watch. Coben seems to go and actually be in positions of control when adapting his novels, which really kind of probably helps in some respects, but it hurts in others. And hopefully I kind of lay that out for you. But it seems like he's getting the big opportunities right now out there. And so he's definitely someone to go and actually watch when IPs continue to go forward. Now, let's go and actually determine if I'm a main or casual before I really go and actually lay out this path of why I'm giving the recommendations. So for me, first and foremost, mysteries. I love them. I'm all about mysteries, love them. Even when they're poorly written, I still go and actually vibe with them. Crime dramas, which is a little bit different as far as investigating like perpetrators and Law and Order and things of that nature. I mostly love those. There are some that are just kind of, it gets a little too formulaic and it kind of gets boring, what have you, things like that. But overall, I love that particular genre. British series are kind of like come and go. I've now, in the access of doing this particular channel, I've gotten exposed to more and more British shows, and so it's a mixed bag. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. I'm kind of like in the middle for a British series. This doesn't have a whole lot of well-known actors, at least on this side of the pond. So when I go ahead and actually judging that, there's no one to pull me in this particular series. So that's kind of like a detraction for me because I like to at least know one or two actors in a particular series. It's not a make or break, but it's just the way it is. Kind of, again, trying to decide if I'm a main or casual for this. Another thing on there is female-led series on there. It's gotten mostly positive over the last 3 or 4 years. There have been some really good, solid series and movies that have come out that have been female-led protagonists that are very strong, that exhibit some really good stories and what have you. So that's mostly on a positive note. So when I go and actually evaluate everything, the pros and cons that could go ahead and actually make it me a main or casual, I'm going to go and actually say I'm going to be a main target audience member for this particular series. The reason why I spend so much time on that is because you should always know where your reviewer is coming from with their slant of perspective, and know that when you go ahead and actually take their advice. So if you like how that sounds, do me a favor, click like, share, subscribe, and let's get more into Missing You. In episode 1, we've got a solid opening scene that does a good job introducing us to the main character. She's a badass. She's got a little bit of wits to her. She looks pretty good. There's a lot of things on there in that opening scene that kind of opens you up to like she's a little bit of a rebel, a little bit of a badass, and some things going on with her, whatever. So I like that opening scene, the way they go ahead and actually introduce her. They set up the main character with the main premise of the story right away, meaning that you know exactly where she's coming from, what her past issues are, and then really where she's coming from as far as the fiance and things of that nature. So I'm not spoiling anything, but just kind of letting you know that they get into that story very quickly. They don't dawdle about doing that. And I like that because that gets you into the story right away. There's a lot of flashbacks and narratives to set up motivations. There's a lot, they kind of interweave a lot of different things going on in that very first episode. And sometimes it works for you. There's other times where it kind of distracting of like giving some things a little bit of room to breathe. It doesn't seem like they do that. They're just like hitting you all the time of like story, 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 more strings, more threads. And I understand that, sometimes that's necessary, but here it was a little bit less, especially in the first episode. The last minute of the first episode was very good cliffhanger, really makes you want to go into that next episode. As we get into the second episode, there's a very intriguing setup there's another sub story again. A lot of different strings coming in on this particular series. I think there's a very good opening scene on there that really kind of draws you in on this secondary or tertiary plot that's going on, and you kind of get drawn into that second episode by that first scene. The only thing about that sub story is that it seems very disconnected from what they've established in that first episode, so it kind of throws you for a little loop. You know that it's going to tie together, but it just seems to come out of nowhere, so that could be like a little disjointing to someone that's watching the episode for the first time. One of the things that I will go ahead and actually say is that the secondary or tertiary plot, whatever you want to go into do, because again, all these different plots are going on, but it does go and actually deepen the mystery of like a finance in sort of a way on there, and it's hard to really kind of clarify that without spoiling anything, but it does a good job of kind of digging in and giving some roots on why some things may have occurred the way that they've occurred already. And then lastly, last thoughts on those first episodes. Again, the end of the second episode does a very good job of doing a cliffhanger move to want you to tune into more episodes. This series does a very good job of, if you get to the end of an episode, boom, I want to get to the next one. So if you have interest, they're very good on hooking you and bringing you into the next episode. So those are my thoughts on the episodes themselves. This is a series that has kind of like a very familiar feel to it. Mystery dramas with like kind of a decent protagonist, has multiple issues and they have multiple things to find out. Troubled past, tormented actions going forward. There's nothing here that's like super original, but somehow it works for both mains and casuals because the character is just likable enough. They have just enough story in there to go and actually lead you to be like, hey, you'll want to still know, even though you kind of seeing that this seems like very formulaic and kind of dulls you a little bit. There's still something about the characters and a little bit about the story that kind of leads you forward. The pacing is really good. I've noticed this about Harlan Coben's works that are brought to television or adaptation. They do get along with different scenes on there. They get in and out on there. You don't want to be bored too long, and I think they do a very good job doing that. Also, he seems to have a good eye for casting, and when I look at that of how that speaks to how the story is told and how convinced I am on bringing into that world or what have you, I think they do a very good job of casting the right people and world building so that I go ahead and actually really know what's going on. Does the dialogue seem to fit with this particular scene, this particular situation, whatever? I think they do a very good job with that, and I like that. Really, the only detraction that I have from a storytelling aspect of things is that it seems, again, like there's so many different threads that are being introduced into the story that they almost detract from the main storyline. And I'm quite sure as things goes on, they connect everything, and you kind of see some of the connections in the first two episodes, whatever, but they don't wrap things up. For me, I like mysteries that as they introduce 2 or 3 plot lines, whatever, they kind of wrap something up a little bit before they introduce the next thing. Like they don't have you following so many different things throughout. Now, maybe that's my simplistic way of looking at things, but just got to go off of my preferences. I don't like to have to think about all these different things on there in order to converge on that. At least let me try and solve some things throughout so that I can, feel like there's audience participation when we're talking about mysteries and things like that. Like I want to be able to solve a little bit of things along the way, but also want to be led so that, hey, there's a little twist here. It's not what you thought here and that. Maybe it's hard to gauge that within the first 2 episodes, but that's probably my biggest critique of this particular series is that it just has a little unsatisfying feeling when I'm looking at the multitude of storylines and threads that it's bringing to it overall. But I think what happens here is that they do keep the audience engaged in this particular series, and that's the most important thing. And the story overall is fine. It just, there's a lot there. So that's what I have for the storytelling aspect of things. The main character, Kat, is really the only character that's allowed to be kind of fleshed out within the first 2 episodes. And I think she does a good job between presenting herself of how her personality is on the job and professionally, and then within her personal struggles. There's probably too much of leaning into like how broken she is over her fiance or her father's passing and things of that nature. But I understand sometimes it's necessary to kind of really dig into how much despair that she's going to have. But sometimes I feel like there's a little bit much on there. But that's just probably more my opinion than anything else. There is really in a non-spoiler aspects of things, there's a really good scene with her and an inmate in episode 2 that was very good, that really kind of elevates that episode to a level where you're just like, okay, this is very good acting, very good lines, and not a whole lot is said, but there's some good action, or excuse me, some good acting that happens on that particular scene. And so that kind of elevated the acting aspect of it for me. No one else really sticks out in this particular series for me, whether good or bad. And again, that's kind of middling. There's nothing for me to go ahead and actually say in the realms of anything that stands out to me. Just the supporting cast was decent, and they work within their storylines. Overall, this is a series that really straddles the line of being entertaining. It has enough of the components for mains that could go ahead and actually find it binge worthy, but it's also has a predictive nature to it, and that might turn off some mains. And in another way on there for casuals, it's probably good that there's a multitude of storylines going on, because it kind of keeps your synapses firing, and you'll find something on there that you might attach to or what have you. But also lost in that is that if you're a casual coming on to go and actually watch this mystery, you might feel like there's just too many things going on at one time on there, and it might go ahead and actually distract you or what have you. The acting is decent, not great. Main protagonist does bring some things to the table, what have you. I think you're going to find that this is one of those series where that one episode watch for both mains and casuals is going to be enough to really determine that, first and foremost, you'll get entertained with that first episode. You're going to be fine on there. There's not like horrible acting, horrible scenes or anything like that. But I think it's worth it to give it that one episode watch to see if this is going to be your thing or not, because both casuals and mains will have something that they can go and actually grab onto for this particular series. So that's what I have for Missing You, now showing on Netflix. Check it out.
I don't know what kind of truth you're going to find out there, but I don't think you're going to like it.
You tune in for this entire review. I appreciate you. I really do. Do me a favor. If you really stayed and you really liked it like that, give me a like, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, all that kind of good stuff. We're close to like 10 people away from going actually getting 400 subscribers. That would be awesome. So hopefully you can go and actually do that. If not, you can go and actually do me a favor and watch one of these other videos that the algorithm seems to think that you might like of mine. But until the next time, I'll holla at you. Take care of yourself.
Now that's a happy ending. Or is it? Because everything's over now, and all that's left is you and the infinite void.